And for more, let's turn to Yuka Royer from our business desk. Yuka, Myanmar was already a place where you had a food emergency, under sanctions, the junta, a civil war, and now this.
Yeah, well, the US Geological Survey, USGS, has issued a red alert warning that the final death toll could top 100,000 and total economic losses could exceed Myanmar's GDP. Now, since a coup in 2021, the nation of 51 million people has been facing an unprecedented polycrisis, according to the United Nations, marked by economic collapse, intensifying conflict, climate hazards, and deepening poverty. Luke Schrager has more.
It's been 4 years since the military coup that removed Myanmar's civilian authorities, and the bitter conflict that ensued has only worsened in that time. The United Nations put the number of internally displaced at over 3.5 million by the end of last year, some 6% of the population, straining host communities badly and leaving nearly 20 million people in need of humanitarian aid. A year-old conscription drive from Myanmar's military authorities has also led thousands to flee the country, straining a rapidly depleting workforce and posing a major risk to longer-term development. Every sector of the economy has suffered. There's been constant disruption to supply chains and border trade, with inflation skyrocketing and over half the country's townships experiencing active conflict. What's more, agricultural productivity has dropped by 16%. That has set prices soaring, with rice now 47% more expensive in some regions and touching off a humanitarian crisis. Rakhine State is particularly vulnerable, with food production projected to meet just 20% of local needs by the middle of the year. It's against this background that the World Bank warned another natural disaster could worsen things further, and it now seems that in the aftermath of Friday's earthquake, even the worst predictions for Myanmar may not have been pessimistic enough.
But since the military junta took over control, Myanmar's economy has lagged behind its peers in Southeast Asia, and global funding shortfalls have meant foreign aid is being slashed. Despite a brief uptick in 2022, GDP has shrunk 9% since 2020. In December last year, the World Bank downgraded its economic outlook for Myanmar, predicting another negative growth for the fiscal year ending this March. 4 years of fighting have left millions of people with little access to basic necessities. Less than half the population has access to electricity, and inflation has skyrocketed while the black market for foreign currencies thrived. Francois.
Well, world markets are braced for Wednesday, what Donald Trump has called Liberation Day, when he's going to announce new global tariffs. And it's a mystery as to what exactly he's going to say.
Yeah, there's still a lot of uncertainty surrounding what's going to happen on April the 2nd. It's expected the new move is expected to involve the most significant tariff hikes so far in Donald Trump's second term. And the president has said he wants them to be big and simple. He argues the aim is to address the United States trade imbalance with the rest of the world and will target all of its trading partners to different degrees. Many of those that ran big surpluses with the US are in Asia. Commerce ministers from China, Japan and South Korea met in Seoul over the weekend in their first economic dialogue in 5 years. According to Chinese state media, they agreed to jointly respond to new US tariffs. Well, markets are on edge, even though it's unclear what the extent of fresh US tariff moves would be. Tokyo's Nikkei closed down 4% this Monday. Europe was a sea of red as well, with Frankfurt sinking 1.3% and Paris closing the day down more than 1.5%. Wall Street's main indexes also hit multi-month lows earlier in the day, although the Dow has since clawed back into positive territory. The Nasdaq is losing more than 1%. Let's see if you can get those figures from Wall Street. Yeah, there you go. The Dow Jones currently up by 1/3 of a percentage point. The Nasdaq down 1.09%. The CBOE VIX index, known as Wall Street's fear gauge, surged to the highest level in weeks to nearly 24 earlier in the day. The higher the figure, the more uncertain investors are about which way the stock market would go in the near future.
All right. And here in France, a big fine for Apple.
Well, France's national competition watchdog has imposed a 150 million euro penalty on Apple this Monday, accusing the company of abusing its dominant position in the distribution of apps on iPhones and iPads. The accusation centers on a privacy feature called App Tracking Transparency, or ATT. It's meant to protect users by requiring apps to get permission before collecting data for targeted ads. The regulator did not criticize this feature itself, but said that the way it was implemented was neither necessary nor proportionate and hurt smaller businesses. Apple said it was disappointed by the decision, but added that it hadn't been asked to make any changes to its system. Authorities in Germany, Italy, Romania and Poland have opened similar probes over ATT.
All right, and there's a food scare taking place in Japan.
Yeah, over over one of its major gyudon chains or beef bowls. It's the largest chain serving beef on rice bowls. It has shut nearly all of its eateries in the country for deep cleaning and safety checks. This after two recent incidents. In January, a user posted on Google Map Review that he had found a dead rat in his soup, with a photo. Then this month, another user said that he had found a cockroach in a dish at another secure restaurant. This has prompted the owner of the chain, Zensho, to close nearly all of its 2,000 domestic outlets for 4 days starting Monday. No action has been announced concerning its nearly 700 overseas restaurants there.
And while we're discussing, the urgents are coming in over the new 3-star restaurants. The Michelin Guide is publishing its annual review. Perhaps you'll have that for us later, Yuka Royer. Many thanks for that update on business. It's time